Good morning. Thank you very much for joining. My name is Nadav. I do hope you enjoy this presentation, find it interesting and also valuable to you. I will make a very quick introduction presentation about how cybersecurity and fintech work together. They're very closely associated in our days. And it's all about finding a balanced and healthy approach for cybersecurity in your business, in your growing business, whatever your stage is. Yeah, the fintech community is very partialist. I'm sure you know a lot of the names. I know them. Some of them I worked very closely with. Threats. I would say something about cybersecurity threats, specifically for the fintech industry. And there's an alert here. I'm going to mention something very, very obvious. I wanted to put it here because sometimes I'm being cynical. So there you go. There are many threats. I think there's no question about it. Many cybersecurity threats to financial services, financial institutions, and all types of organizations and businesses, really. The list goes on and on and on. Ransomware, cryptoware, phishing, social engineering attack, malware, endless list. And you see the news, you watch and read the news. A few weeks back, there was a ransomware surge, global, targeting very big institutions, specifically from the telecom industry, especially. A few weeks before, there was another form of attack, DDoS attack, campaign based on IoT devices. Tomorrow there's going to be something else. Tomorrow there's going to be another type of attack, a large-scale campaign of a different scenario, technology, or approach by the attackers. And what I want to say here is exactly the opposite of the title, really, is that we shouldn't focus too much on the threats and the attacks themselves specifically. There's always going to be something. It's just growing more and more. You see more and more threats, more and more organized attacks by groups, entities, malicious teams, even countries. But it's not the point here. It's not the point of this presentation. And the point here is finding a good balance, a healthy balance, a formula of confronting and addressing cybersecurity in your business, in your organization, specifically fintech companies, fintech entities. And my idea of this formula is pretty simple. You can call it a triangle. There are three main elements for this formula. It is technology, compliance, and business. And I will elaborate. We can start with technology. This is a very fundamental concept. Fintech companies, fintech entities, services relies heavily on technology. There's always some form of technology behind the service, behind the product, software. And the idea here, on the first element of this triangle, of this formula, is that you have to make your technology secure. It's a very broad concept. There is a lot behind this sentence and this statement, but you need to make sure that your technology, the core technology, the product, software, code, whatever it is that serves your clients, is secure. And there are a lot of specific elements within this technology or your platform, starting from the cloud provider, third-party hosting, application layer, code, infrastructure layer, network, the people and processes, how everything works together around the technology is also important. you have a lot of technological processes for development, for example. And the idea here is that everything should be covered in relation to security. And there's a lot of best practices, there's a lot of ways to confront it, to address security in every stage, every phase, and every layer of your platform. And this is the first key element. Your technology, you have to make sure it's secure by design, achieve a good level of security and maintain it. The second element, and it's growing more and more relevant rapidly, compliance, regulation. Again, here you can see really an endless, this list goes on and on and on, of security standards and compliance, especially security compliance, is something that is constantly growing. And why? This is because authorities, regulators discovered that the best way to enforce security and make sure that entities in their industry adhere to security standards, security practices, is actually forming some sort of regulation, some sort of best practice framework, and enforce it on the relevant entities. And it works. It's becoming a very big industry of security standards. I'm sure you would be able to recognize some of the standards here. And it's really a very partial list. PCI DSS for payment cards industry, FCA with their security requirements, and really there's also a very specific, sector-specific security standards. The state of New York just formed another one, cybersecurity standards for financial services institutions. And you will see a lot of standards in the near future because it's a very effective way to make sure that everyone address security issues. But again, here you should also remember in this vast forest of compliance and standards that what's important is not the requirements, is not the actual controls, the auditors, the assessors, the consultants. What's important is security. And with compliance, as a compliance specialist, I can tell you that 80% of all security standards, or maybe 80% of all security standards content is the same, and based on really fundamental security best practices. And the most important thing with security compliance is to mind the security, not the actual compliance and not the auditors and not the actual snapshots, the yearly cycle, but the actual security. That's what's important. And once you understand that and you address the core principles, you will comply with every standard, framework, best practices that is going to be enforced and relevant. And one thing that I always say also is that the standards themselves should comply with us, with the businesses, with the companies, and not just the other way around. Because the best way to implement a security standard is to do it from the business perspective and tailor it to your organization. And this is, in a nutshell, security compliance. The third element is business. And today, security is very, very important for businesses in many, many ways. And as you grow, fintech companies, not just in the fintech industry or financial sector, but any other industry, you will see and get this awareness and be aware that security is a legitimate business requirement. Sometimes it's the very core of the business to make sure that there is a proper level of information security. In many occasions, there are end clients, end users, people involved, and people information, private information is also very, very critical and very highly regulated today. So you will see, and you should be aware, that your security, your level of information security is the business, is not just your business, but is the business of your clients. And as you progress, as things get more and more, as the business progresses, you will see a lot of due diligence frameworks, third-party assurance frameworks from potential clients, partners, and whatnot. And this is something that also needs to be confronted and addressed. And just have just acknowledge, really, that your security is the business of your clients, because your impact on their environment is a risk to the confidentiality, the integrity, and availability of their data. So that's very, very important. The level of your impact on your client security, that's something to be also acknowledged by you. And again, you don't have to be crazy and chase all of the security products, solutions, vendors. Initially, you should, again, find a very healthy, balanced security approach and just grow it as the business grows. And just align it with your business, because any other way it will just won't work. So this is about the business, and just to summarize, technology, compliance, and business, this is the formula of gaining a balanced cybersecurity approach. Those three core elements should work together. You should equally address each and every one of those three elements, and then you can achieve a healthy approach to cybersecurity and something that is good for you. You should not work for the standards or for the regulators or for the products or the vendors or the solutions or the firewalls. You should work, security should work for your company, your idea, your business, your platform, whatever it is, and in any stage that you are at the moment, should have the proper security approach. So this is the key message. Three elements, three basic fundamental elements, and how they work together. And when you cover them, then you can say that you are on a good path. So this is it. This is it for my session. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time and for listening. Thanks.